welcome into the Stinkin Truth Podcast. Mark Schlereth alongside Mike Evans. I am live from New York. And we teased it. We teased it in the last podcast. So if you haven't heard the news, I have officially signed a deal with Fox to do a morning show on television live from New York. So yours truly is packing up his little bags and he's heading off in the wild blue yonder to New York. And I'm going to live here and do TV in the morning, do some radio with you after I'm not doing TV. We'll still do the podcast. But my life has just gotten incredibly busy. I'll still call games. So I've got 3 or 4 legitimate jobs right now, which I'm excited about. It's been funny because for 23 years, I've been the one traveling all the time. Now my wife is going to have to travel to see me. So the shoe's on the other foot. But I'm going to be honest, and do not share. My wife doesn't watch this, so do not share this with my bride. Don't be that guy, right? It's a guy's rule here. I'll miss my lawn more than I'll miss her. Like my lawn is, how I am.
I know.
Lawn, and it's just going to be. I'm going to fly back next week just for a couple of days, and I'm going to one last mow, and it's going to be emotional. Sparks are going to fly, Mike. It's going to be tough.
Folks, let me be honest with you here, okay? And this is not hyperbole at all. If you ever want to get under Stink's skin, just imply that he has a landscaping service that does all the work at his yard. He will get genuinely pissed because he loves his lawn, loves it. And the fact that now you're going to be separated from it like this, I know it's killing you because you are literally now going to have to hire a landscaping service.
I don't know that I've ever told this story on this podcast, but here's just how it goes. I'm out working in my yard and my lawn is impeccable, but there's one spot I wasn't real happy about. So I actually I have a hand aerator. So I actually core the lawn. I put a little soil down. I'm sprinkling some grass seed. I got my rake, and I'm just going to town. I got my headphones in, and some guy pulls up, puts down the passenger side window. I don't know. He lives in the neighborhood. I've never seen him. So he rolls down the window and I take my headphones out and he goes, "Stop it." I went, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Stop it." I go, "I'm sorry." He goes, "Just stop it." He goes, "Every day I have to listen to my wife bitch. Mr. Schlereth travels more than you. Why doesn't our yard look like his yard?" And he goes, and he looks at me, and he's dead serious. He goes, "You make us all look bad in the neighborhood." And then he just took off. I don't know who he is. I was like, but it was actually one of those. It was funny, but it was a moment of pride for me. I was like, "Yeah, how you like me now?" So I mean that has actually happened to me before. So yes, my lawn is awesome, and I will definitely miss it.
Well, I know you're a busy guy. You're the son of poolside, which doesn't surprise me that you actually have 5 or 6 jobs right now because the apple clearly has not fallen far from the tree. So let's get into it. There's some really interesting stories. I thought this was easily one of the more interesting stories that came out of the NFL this past week. So the Bengals and Colts are doing joint practices, and apparently Bengals players were just they had glee at talking trash and poking fun at Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson, who apparently spent more time running than throwing during the practices. Here are some of the comments. BJ Hill, "Throw the ball, bro." Cornerback Cam Taylor-Britt, "Is that all he does is run?" And then safety Geno Stone, "He's just throwing to spots. He doesn't see his receivers." Now, hey, listen, I'm all for, the Bengals being honest, but if I'm a Colts fan, how am I supposed to react to this?
Probably not well. And there's probably a reason right now that teams are talking about, or the Colts are talking about potentially starting Joe Flacco. Oof. And I listen, man, I know that Joe Flacco is old and everything else, but he played really well for Cleveland last year in the last 5 or 6 games of the season, whatever it was. And I'm going to tell you right now, Anthony Richardson is a big time, top flight, as good as it gets athlete. He's not a quarterback. He is right now, as currently constructed, he is not a quarterback. And I'm not saying that he'll never become a quarterback, but the Indianapolis Colts were close to winning last year, and it wasn't because of Anthony Richardson. It was because of Minshew. So in the 4 games that he started last year, Mike, in the 4 games, he didn't finish one game. He got knocked out of every single game because of his propensity to take the ball, tuck it under his arm, and start scrambling around. And you cannot, you know this, you can't win in the NFL playing that style of football. So, you know, I'm not saying he's going to be a long-term bust. I'm not saying he's never going to play. But listen, if I was a gambling man and you asked me to put some amount of money that mattered to me on Anthony Richardson becoming, you know, a full-time starting quarterback, or Anthony Richardson going kind of the way of who was the guy that Buffalo Bills took the first round? EJ Manuel, or was it?
Yes. EJ.
Yeah.
Yes.
Manuel.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, I would put more money right now on him becoming a bust than I would him becoming an elite level quarterback.
What about a Cam Newton type comp here? You know, somebody who's just big, he's physical, he's a linebacker playing quarterback who, you know, for the first part of his career he's a running back playing quarterback, but eventually, you know, develops into a an adequate enough passer that you can win an MVP, go to a Super Bowl, all that.
Well, Cam Newton, I mean, at least Cam Newton could stay healthy his first, 6, 7, 8 years in the league. I mean, this guy's already missed. I mean, he went on IR week 5 last year. I just honestly, I just don't see it, man. I just think that this is one of those situations, and I'm not saying it can't happen, but if I had to gamble it, I'm going to say it wouldn't happen. I don't know. What do you think?
You and I have had this conversation all the time. Until the model changes, I'm going to go with what has seemed to have worked for the last 55, 56 Super Bowls. And that is that you need a quarterback. It's great if he can move around, but he has to dominate from the pocket. He just has to. And until that model changes, I'm gonna go with the model that is tried and true. And until Anthony Richardson shows that he can just deal and slice teams up from the pocket, all this ability to run around really doesn't amount to much.
Mike, those comments remind me of a practice. I was in Denver watching a practice with Tim Tebow, and I'm watching him do 7-on-7 drills, right, where you have to throw it. And Tim Tebow tucked the ball and ran it on 7-on-7, and everybody on the defense was yelling, dude, throw the freaking ball. The coaches were, throw the free. This is not. It's 7-on-7. They don't have a defensive. We don't have an offensive line, and they don't have a defensive line. This is a throwing drill. And he took off and ran it. And the crazy thing was the crowd went. The crowd went crazy. 15-yard scramble with nobody there. Right. It just was like you're like, oh my god, you cannot. You're kind of peeking out of one eye, like, oh no. And here he is, like, here's them yelling at Anthony Richardson about running the ball too much. That does not bode well, Mike.
Let's talk about a quarterback who we know can play quarterback, but he has his own issues to deal with, and that's Aaron Rodgers, who is telling people that, hey, body feels great. Yeah, I'm in my 40s now. I'm coming off a year in which I missed with the Achilles injury, but Aaron says he feels great. What kind of season are you expecting from Aaron Rodgers?
MVP caliber season.
MVP.
Dude, the Jets are legit, man. They got a legit defense. I think they've bolstered their offensive line, but Aaron Rodgers is so good getting the ball out of his hand. They've got a bunch of young weapons, at the receiver position, at the running back position. And Aaron Rodgers, he was dicing up the Giants in joint practice yesterday. Like, Aaron Rodgers is one of the best that's ever played the game. And I'm fully expecting, and I know that this probably is counterintuitive because, it's the Jets, but I'm fully expecting the Jets to win that division, to usurp Buffalo, to, jump over the top of Miami and to win that division. I think they will. So I'm expecting really high caliber play out of Aaron, because that's what he always gives us, is high caliber play. But I think the Jets are a much better football team. Obviously I'm expecting them to compete in that division and win that division.
But he missed a year of football, and he's with a new team, new players that he still hasn't had a chance to play a game with. It seems like there's still a lot of a lot of newness and a lot of rust and a lot of things that have to be overcome before he settles into being an MVP caliber player.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, he's got, I think, he's got like 8,500 attempts in his career or something crazy like that. I could be wrong on that, but I think I saw that stat somewhere. And if it's wrong, it's got to be close. I mean, this, you would think, right? I mean, the guy's played, what is he, 40? He's played forever. So, yeah, I mean, I get like, coming off of rust and stuff. I think a guy like that, it doesn't matter. Tom Brady coming back and playing, how long did he take off before he came back and played for Tampa? Did he take a year off?
Oh, no. He jumped right into it. Yeah, no.
Yeah. Well, he took a couple months off, didn't
he? He got suspended 4 games for Deflategate, so
it didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter. Didn't matter.
I think Aaron is so freaking experienced. I think he's got, a lot of young talent around him. I just don't think I really, if you're a young quarterback, I would worry about rust. And, I remember Peyton Manning say it would be, disingenuous or a disservice to the game to not practice and say I'd still be good. But I have a feeling that Aaron Rodgers is going to be just fine. And we're going to see it on display Monday night to open up Monday night against San Francisco.
You bring up Peyton Manning. That's a great example because Peyton had missed that year with the neck injury before he signed on with the Broncos. And if you remember correctly, it took him 3, 4, 5 games to kind of start to find his niche.
Yeah, they were like 2-3 or 3-2 or something of that nature. And but I think the difference, we saw diminishing skill set in his ability to throw the ball because of that neck. I've watched a bunch of Aaron's practices and stuff. There is no diminished skill set there. Right. That dude is slinging it. So, I just am not that concerned. I'm not that concerned about it. I think the Jets are going to be, a formidable team.
You want to take a victory lap?
Sure.
I know you.
I love taking victory laps.
I mean, Mark Schlereth, is it tough for you to pat yourself on the back? Is it tough?
Yeah, my shoulders are not real flexible, but I can probably get
it. Yeah. All right. Well, here you go. Here's your moment. Here's your victory lap. You said all along Sean Payton and Bo Nix will be a good fit, and that Bo might actually be, when it's all said and done, the best quarterback to come out of this class. 6 quarterbacks were taken. He wins the job. Not really a surprise that Bo Nix was named the starter, but the fact that it was a foregone conclusion, that it was so obvious he was going to be the starter. Did you see it happening as easy as it turned out to be?
I did, but I have the benefit of talking to Sean Payton and being friends with Sean. I saw it simply because I saw the fit, and I saw, some Drew Brees in Bo Nix's game. And I think that's exactly what Sean Payton saw as well. He saw the fit of kind of Drew Brees. This guy could be my Drew Brees. The other thing you saw in college tape, Mike, is his ability to make a decision like in an instant and then throw the ball accurately after he made that decision. And like those skill sets translate. Right? When you can go through a progression, just 1, 2, 3, and it's just like da-da-da, and it's out. When you can get that done, and then you can be accurate on top of that, like that translates to the next level. That's NFL football. And that's what you saw, and that's what Sean saw, and that's why he was drafted. And I've said this since day one. I've said it on this podcast and anybody else that would listen to me. I think he came into the best situation in regards to the quarterbacking class, because you look at the first 3 guys taken, they all went to defensive coaches, right? And then you look at McCarthy. He was in a good situation, but he's hurt now. And then you look at Bo Nix. Obviously Michael Penix goes to a defensive coach as well. You look at Bo Nix, man. Like Sean Payton, and Sean Payton coming off the Russell Wilson experience, like that was just like he was, pushing bamboo shoots underneath his fingernails. I mean, it was so bad for him. So to have that fresh start, and you've seen it, like you've seen the excitement, you've heard in his voice. It's a great fit. You get some of the national pundits and say, well, This one was easy to predict, but what's the ceiling? Like the other guys have a higher ceiling. Don't listen to that garbage. Like, right? Like, because they look at it like the tangible things. Like, well, he doesn't have a big arm or he's not the greatest athlete.
Right.
Like, baloney. It's bullshit. It doesn't matter. He's on time and he's accurate. And he's got plenty of arm and he's unbelievably athletic, especially when you get in the red zone and you start running that zone read stuff and the quarterback runs and all that kind of stuff, all the play action stuff that comes off of that, the RPO game. Like Bo Nix, I just feel like Bo Nix, like if I was betting on if one of these quarterbacks, forget about the positional players, but if one of these quarterbacks was going to be voted, rookie of the year at the quarterback position, Bo Nix would be the guy I'd put my money on, not Caleb Williams.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, they definitely, both of them have been getting a ton of run here over the last week, but certainly the national narrative around Bo has really flipped overnight after just a couple of preseason games, but he'll be the starter in Denver. AJ Terrell, the corner for Atlanta, gets a big time deal, $81 million, some $66 million of it guaranteed. He becomes the second highest paid corner in football. And, in Denver, we're kind of curious because Patrick Surtain is going to be coming up for a new deal, and it's expected he'll be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. I think NFL fans, and I'm going to speak for NFL fans here because I'm one of you as well. How do we look at corners and be able to measure their value? Because you know how it is. We live in a fantasy football world. Everything's measured by stats, and we don't necessarily have the stats when it comes to these supposed elite corners. So for some of us, we kind of wonder, well, just how important are they? How valuable are they? How much should we be paying them?
Right. I think you talked to me earlier about Surtain. What did he have? One interception last year?
Yeah.
There's no stats there, right? Like how do we level that out? How do we figure out what that value is, what that worth is? And I would tell you that when you have a shutdown guy, when you have a guy that can match up, it frees you up all over the football field to do more exotic stuff and create opportunities to confuse a quarterback. And then one step further, when you get into the red zone where you get a lot of these kind of coverages where they lock, they call it Meg, man everywhere he goes. You lock one corner, right? And then you kick a safety down and you start playing double team over here, a couple of double teams across the board. So you have more opportunity to create something exotic, to change the look up for the quarterback. And that truly is the value. So, defensive coordinators always talk about wearing the hat. And one thing they try to do is, what I mean by wearing the hat is you're going to wear the hat, meaning you're going to have the toughest responsibility at one point. We're going to put all the pressure on you, right, in that defense. And so I think the important thing is for most coordinators, I'm not going to have you wear the hat all the time. I'm going to have it's going to move around from player to player to player so they can't target one guy. But when you have that guy, AJ Terrell, or you have a Patrick Surtain, you could say, guess what? You're going to wear the hat all the time,
right?
Especially in the red zone. And the value of that guy, if he can shut down a receiver and you can double team everybody else just about, the value of that guy becomes immense. And so it's not measured in statistics. It's measured in all the things you do for the rest of your team. And so I know it's hard to, it's hard to give a number, right? It's hard to, what's the right word? Quantitate?
Quantify, yeah.
Quantify. Yeah, it's just hard. But their value is so high in this league because of those things and because it lets you play. You got one-on-one, you take that away. Now I've got 10 guys, where I can move them and take them and put them in different places. And so it's a big value position.
Let me play a game with you. I know you love games.
Yeah.
You love games. You have a childlike innocence when it comes to being able to play these games.
Thank you.
So let's say you're a team and you are blessed with just obscene good young talent all across the board, but they're all coming up for new contracts. Okay. You've got a stud receiver.
Okay.
You have a stud tight end. You have a stud left tackle. You have a stud pass rusher.
Okay.
You have a stud inside linebacker, and you have a stud corner. Kind of how are you going to prioritize who you're paying?
I play the game from the inside out, right? So when you find an offensive lineman that can play, those guys don't become free agents. There's a reason, because it's hard to find them. And when you get a great one, you just lock that guy up for a long-term deal, and then you never hear from him again, right? Because it's not like most of the time, it's not like they're hurt all the time. Like they spend a lot of time. They're a low-risk, high-reward position in today's NFL.
Okay.
So left tackle is big. We just talked about the cornerback position, right? So one cornerback can stop one receiver. A great pass rusher can stop all the receivers.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to a great pass rusher after that. So playing the game inside out. But then after that, Mike, like I would go probably tight end because they're a matchup nightmare. And the other thing about the tight end position is in today's NFL, it's probably the second most kind of mental stress position in football, because you've got all the motions and you've got to be an offensive lineman. So you've got to totally be in tune with the running game, but you also have to be a wide receiver because we're going to split you out wide. And so you got to be able to run all the routes. And then sometimes you're going to play a dual role. And oh, by the way, we'll put you in at fullback and motion you out of fullback or use you as a fullback. And sometimes you're the Y or the front side or the blocking tight end. Well, other times you're the F, the backside tight end. So like there's a lot on your plate mentally. So it'd probably be tight end, and then I'd probably go corner after that. And that's kind of that. And then the rest of them are like, they're important, but they're not as important to me. So that's kind of the direction I think I would go.
Okay, fair enough. One more here for you. This one just kind of came down as we were getting ready to talk here. Pro Football Hall of Fame has announced that the waiting period for coach candidates has been reduced from 5 seasons out of the game to just 1 season. And this kind of feels like maybe the Bill Belichick rule that if Bill doesn't get back into coaching, he doesn't have to wait 5 years to get in the Hall of Fame. He just goes in after 1 year. How do you feel about this?
It doesn't bother me, but it surprises me because, all the people I've talked to that were members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and voters for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the guys that are the gatekeepers of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I've talked to a bunch of them over the years, and a bunch of guys every year. I have conversations with guys that have voting rights and want me to give their analysis or the analysis on different offensive linemen and different players from different generations, from my generation, that whether the pass rushers or whatever. But the reason that rule has been in place is because they never wanted a guy to leave, be done for 2 years, go into the Hall of Fame, and then come back and coach actively.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want that to happen. Like they didn't want an active Hall of Famer being on the sideline as a coach. Now, why they didn't want that, I don't know. Because I don't think it would bother me. I don't know if it would bother you.
No,
it wouldn't.
Like the pro basketball, the basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I mean, you have college and pro coaches that are in the Hall of Fame right now that are still coaching.
Yeah,
it's never been an issue there.
Right. It's never bothered me, but that was always the way it was explained to me. Maybe they just came to their sense and goes, it's a dumb rule. Let's just change it. And then it also makes me think of, the potential of somebody being sick that has to step away from coaching to go directly in. And God forbid anybody is in that position. But if you thought about it, and a guy who's been, a stalwart and been a great coach, for instance, that has to step away from the coaching ranks because of sickness, let's get him in before we have to get him in posthumously.
Yeah.
So that one actually, that would make sense to me. So hopefully they're forward thinking, and hopefully this is something that they put some time into and said, hey man, this makes sense to us, and let's do this just in case. But NFL, where common sense isn't always so common, who knows why they did it.
So your first full weekend in New York as a full-time New Yorker. What are you going to do? You going to, take a walk down to Central Park, or maybe go out to the Statue of Liberty, go to Carnegie Deli, maybe take a show in on Broadway. What do you got planned? What's your first full weekend as a full-fledged New Yorker going to include?
Pretty much nothing. I mean, I'm planning on doing absolutely nothing. My goddaughter lives here. I'm going to try to take her possibly to dinner tonight. Then my wife is coming in Sunday so she can see the first show. So, so Sunday night, I'll take her, I'll wine her and dine her at this little local Mexican restaurant that's just a hole in the wall, but I like it. And other than that, I'm going to do a whole lot of nothing, Mike. I got some writing to do. I'll probably study some football. Start prepping my games, start looking at that stuff. So, tonight and tomorrow are going to be go get it work nights.
Yeah. See, folks, New York may be the city that never sleeps. It may be the most exciting city in the world, but to Mark Schlereth, it might as well be Des Moines, Iowa. Yeah. No offense, Des Moines.
This city may not sleep, but you know who does? Me. I sleep.
You sleep. Papa Bear sleeps.
Oh, yeah. He's going to get in there and get all cuddly. Hey, listen, for everybody involved in the Secret Podcast, man, we appreciate you guys so much. Can't wait. Preseason's winding up. We got the NFL season coming along, just like a train down the tracks. Chugga, 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 choo, choo, coming at us. So, anyhow, for everybody involved, for Mike, I'm Mark. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please subscribe. And we'll be back with you guys next week. Mike, take care, buddy.
All right, man. See ya.